Okay, everybody, welcome to our August call. Oops, I see I didn't change the date on the screen, but it's August 30th, and I really appreciate everybody joining today. And oh, wait a minute, didn't change. And I'm particularly glad today to have a special guest with us today, and that is Massimo Pioro, who will introduce himself shortly from UCLG. UCLG is an extraordinary ally of ours in the Shift the Power movement. They were a critical voice at the United Nations. And so as we talk about preparing for the UN General Assembly, having Massimo with us is going to be, you will find very, very useful. So a lot of you had a chance to introduce yourself. If you have not already done so, you can do it in the chat. I'm going to give a short overview of the movement for those who are new to the movement, and a few of you are. And then I'm going to introduce Massimo to give us a briefing on UCLG and its role with the United Nations and with the Shift the Power movement globally. And then we're going to mostly spend time today in breakout groups. We want to use this time together to really mutually support each other in strengthening our ability to champion local action for the SDGs. As I shared last month, the Secretary General has declared that localization of the SDGs is key to actually accelerating our ability to achieve them. Last month at the UN, everybody openly admitted that the world is in trouble on achieving the SDGs, but they are encouraging us to use sports analogies, that we're at halftime. And always at halftime in every sport, the teams that are struggling can renew their energy, can renew their commitment, and can devote themselves to really winning in the second half, because they say every game is always won in the second half, and we are entering the second half of the Sustainable Development Goals. So each of us is key. The world in your country, where you live, in your community, are going to look to you to tell them about the SDGs, to tell them what can be done to achieve the SDGs. So given that we are all being thrust into that leadership role in our communities, this is an opportunity for us to share and learn more and discuss more about how we can do that. And we're going to have two breakout groups, one on the SDGs focused on people, and the other on the SDGs focused on planet. And then we'll discuss coming events, and that will be our call today. So by way, for those of you new to, and Anne and Gunjan, if you could keep adding people, or letting people in. I see there's a lot of people in the waiting room. Thank you. And for those of you who just joined, there is French interpretation, thanks to Dr. Palmery, our brilliant French interpreter. So you can click on the globe to get interpretation. So we were launched at the Sustainable Development Summit in 2015, and the movement now comprises more than 1,500 civil society organizations across more than 25 countries. The Hunger Project provides core underwriting support. We now have 17 national associations of the movement, each setting their own priorities, setting their own goals. One of the goals for the US National Association is to raise money in support of supporting majority world associations in becoming self-reliant, able to fund themselves, able to build consortiums. So that's one of my goals. So we were launched because we believe that the only way to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals is through community-led development. At least a dozen of the goals require integrated strategies at the community level. And now the United Nations has officially recognized that 65% of the targets can only be made through community action. So it's hugely important for the world that our governments know that our governments and local government systems partner with civil society, because that kind of partnership is a key goal of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we in the movement have 5 specific goals. One is ensuring that there's voice and agency for women, youth, people with disabilities, marginalized groups in the decisions that affect their lives. 2, that communities have a fair share of the public resources and their mechanisms for funding community-based organizations. 3rd, that there's good local governance, transparency, democratic election, social accountability, citizen engagement is critical for achieving the SDGs. One of the main SDGs, and in fact part of the Charter of the UN and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is that every person is entitled to equal access to quality public services. And finally, perhaps the biggest challenge of all is that communities are critical in resilience, in responding to any shocks that occur. It's always community leaders who are the first responders. So the Sustainable Development Goals were designed and created in 5 categories. The first batch really focus on the quality of life for people. There are goals for increasing prosperity, for saving the planet, for achieving peace and partnership. So in our breakout groups, we're going to look at 2 of those groups of SDGs, the people goals, health, education, nutrition, poverty, and for planet, climate action, responsible production, life under the sea and life on the land. So these are the 17 goals that we'll be discussing in depth. But with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to introduce Massimo, who's on the Global Secretariat of UCLG, to tell us about UCLG, because this is a huge network of cities and local and regional governments. And so with that, we'd love to hear from you, Massimo.
Well, thank you very much, John. And hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. And thanks again, John, for that introduction. I hope to live up to that. And thank you for having me here. Well, my name is Massimo Perino. I work at United Cities and Local Governments World Secretariat, headquartered in Barcelona. For those of you who don't know UCLG, we are a global association of local and regional governments and their associations. So we're also a network of network. We have both city members, municipality members, but also regional and state governments. And then we also have associations of local governments at the national level. Like, for example, the South African Local Government Association, they are also members of our network. So, and well, our main goal is really to advocate for the inclusion of local and regional governments within policy processes, very much the way John here was mentioning the importance of this network in in representing civil society and making sure that no one is left behind within policy processes, we do exactly the same, but from the level of city and local authorities. So it's really a pleasure to be here and happy to give you some more information on what we do. As John said, we're in a very key moment for the Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, 2023 is really the midpoint moment for the SDGs. We find ourselves right at the eve of the SDG summit. So in fact, well, as you are also doing, we're really gearing up towards this summit and really trying to bring the voice of local governments and also our partners, civil society, because I know we're fighting for the same thing here. To ensure that there's an inclusive implementation of the SDGs. So I actually I don't have a presentation, but I would like to share my screen so I can show you our website, which really does showcase the information well and in a clear manner. I think I'm gonna need access actually.
Yes, just a moment.
Thanks. No problem.
Let's see. Oh, I know. So just take a moment. I have to pop up my participants list. And then, oh, if you're, I'm going to mute a person who's in the background here. Okay. Oh, okay, Massimo, you should now be able to share your screen. Sorry, that wasn't set up properly.
No problem at all. And yes, I'm already able to. I think you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, well, our motto at UCLG is the power of we. We're a municipal movement. I think this the power of we can maybe also be applicable to everyone here in this room today. And well, as I said, we represent the municipal movement, and our goal is really to ensure that local governments, as closest level of government to the communities and to people, are involved within UN policy processes, but also within national government processes, and that they're not seen as just mere implementers, but that they also have an active role in shaping that policy. So just kind of scrolling down, and I'm happy to share this link in the chat afterwards. This is kind of how we divide the work of our association, of our network. Well, first, we care. It's really the sort of underlying theme behind all of the work that UCLG does. We place a lot of emphasis on caring societies and on really showcasing that the provision of local public services and the actions of local governments really are an act of producing sort of a society based on care, and this is something that we see is growing as in importance in the UN, especially after the pandemic. So this is not only about care services, which also is key, but we see local public service provision in general being linked to caring for people and to the planet. Then, well, we act. This is comes into our advocacy. So when we go to the UN, and I can go a little bit more in detail afterwards on our plans for the SDG summit, but we advocate. So we really try to look at the UN policy processes, at the political declaration, at the high-level political forum, and make sure that within those processes, local governments' voices are heard. And that, well, they take into account the fact that, I mean, all of these policies that we're discussing will have to be implemented at the local level, not only by us, but also by civil society organization and other stakeholder groups. Then, well, we research. So within UCLG, we have a research team that's dedicated to exploring the level of decentralization within policy. So we look at, for example, within a specific member state, within a specific nation, the level that that national government includes local governments within their policy making processes. And in fact, um, we produce a triannual report. That's the Global Observatory of Decentralization and of Local Democracy. And that's one of our triannual reports. And we also focus going more to the UN. Every year at the High Level Political Forum, we produce a report that looks at the level of inclusion of local governments within voluntary national reviews, because of course, if it's really good that member states and it's necessary that they commit to producing voluntary national reviews and that they produce them for the UN High Level Political Forum. But it's also extremely important not only what they put in there, but also the process, how they come up with their reviews, who have they consulted. So just as they should be consulting all stakeholders, civil society, but also local governments. So from our research team, we analyze voluntary national reviews and we produce a report on the level of involvement of local governments. And we also discuss this with our local government associations as they're normally the ones that are consulted if they are consulted. Then we have a learning team in which we produce learning materials within United Cities and local governments. This is to produce capacity building for our members. They can be on different issues. For example, we produce learning modules on resilience to capacitate our city members if they want to embark on the journey of making their city more resilient. We have a module on producing voluntary local reviews, which we also produce hand in hand with UN agencies such as UN Habitat and others. And then, well, we meet, which is sort of the motto of the movement meeting. And well, we are an organization that is city and local government led. So while the Secretariat is led by our Secretary General, we have a presidency that can only be locally elected officials. So our current president is the mayor of Montevideo, Carolina Cose. And well, she really steers the priorities and the strategy of the organization. And well, it's a democratic organization that we have elections every 3 years for the presidency, both the president and co-presidents, as we call them. And then finally, well, we listen, which is our communications. So when we go to the UN, we really try and come as one and to really focus our communications on the issues that matter to us. So now sort of going to our plans for the SDG summit. Well, as I said, this is really a key moment for our constituency. We still don't think that we're where we need to be in terms of the level of representation of local governments within United Nations processes and within national processes. Maybe you can relate from the civil society perspective. But well, from our side, we are an NGO that has ECOSOC consultative status, so we're able to follow some of those key meetings that the UN opens up to, but it really ends there. We are the facilitator and secretariat for the local authorities major group. As you know, there are different major groups within the UN for different constituencies. So we lead the one on local authorities. So within the major groups, we do have access to being able to speak within the meetings, not only listen in, and well, this helps when it's the high-level political forum. For the SDG summit, we are understanding that space is extremely limited for the major groups, and in fact, the major group coordination mechanism is sending a letter to the UN to underline that space is absolutely too limited, but just to let you know that we all are also involved within the major groups. And well, our flagship event that we're organizing at the SDG Summit, that we also have been able to organize within every HLPF, is a local and regional governments forum. So we bring elected officials, mayors and governors from around the world, and they basically, as national governments do, they bring their commitments towards sustainable development, towards the SDGs, but also their challenges, and they also present innovative and local policies that they are bringing about to implement the SDGs. So we also make sure that these are heard loud and clear within the UN. And well, this is basically it. Right now, we're gearing up towards the SDG Summit. We'll be there in just a few weeks. And well, we're really happy to be here with you all today. And we hope, to find ways to collaborate. We are a decentralized network. So while the Secretariat head is in Spain, we're a global network, and we have offices all over the world, in Africa, and in Asia, Europe, Latin America, and so on. So I know this is a lot of information, and happy to answer any questions. And back to you, John. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Massimo. If you could, stop. I'm going to share another one of your websites, which I shared with the leads of our national associations on Monday, because I thought it was such a useful tool for our work. So let me go back to sharing. So here we are at the SDGs, and what I want to do is jump to that screen and that. Oops, how do I do this? I was struggling to figure out how to change slides and on my screen. Let's see. Huh. Oh golly. Okay. Gunjan, I'm using, if you could, Gunjan and if you could help mute people because they're coming in loud right now, that'd be great. Thank you. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you share it, Massimo. It's your sdgs.uclg.org website. Could you bring that up on your screen and share it?
Sure, I just have to pull it up.
Yeah, and this is easy to remember. Everyone can remember SDGs.uclg.org. And this was a tool that they created that I've been using a lot because it really looks at every single SDG and exactly in 3 different languages how it relates to the local communities. So if you could just say click on number 4 or something, Massimo. So there it is. And there's one of these pages for every SDG. Local governments are well placed to identify and tackle the barriers to school attendance in our communities. And if you would just click on FR there. So for you francophones, everything pour les ODD, SEC. Okay. So this is one tool that we have. as we're communicating with people who may not even really know the SDGs or know how local communities' role can be played in the SDGs. But I thought, please, Massimo, tell whoever designed this that they're a genius. It's just a fabulous little website. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We're happy that it's being of use.
Okay, so great. So we're about to go into a 20-minute breakout group, and I'm going to, I figured out how to do it. Okay. I'll just share, and so I'm going to share a screen here just for a moment if I can get there. Share screen. So on our first set, if you haven't memorized anything else about the SDGs, you should memorize the first 6. These are the quality of life for people goals: no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, and clean water and sanitation. And all of these are intensely dependent on good governance at the community level. So in our groups, please select a moderator. And let's see, we have a lot of participants now. So I'm going to set up 3 breakout groups. Breakout group 1 will be for the first half of the alphabet, A through M, in English. Group 2 will be N through Z in English, and group 3 will be Francophone. So the first half of the alphabet, you can decide for yourself, and you can pick which group you want to join. Group 1 will be the first half of the alphabet in English. Group 2, the second half of the alphabet in English. And 3 is everyone who wants to speak French. So those will be the breakout groups. I'm going to stop the sharing, and I'm going to figure out how to start those groups. So breakout rooms.
Don, can you just say a little more about what you would like us to do in the breakout groups?
Okay, what I'd like you to do is, great question, Ann, and thank you for steering us, is really think about those first 6 and look at what you can personally do around this, in your own communities, in your own countries, to have your national government, your local governments really cause a breakthrough in achieving those sustainable development goals for people: poverty, hunger, health, education, equality, and water and sanitation. What are the challenges? Who could you talk to? What could you do as a community leader? Because the people on this call are community leaders, to accelerate progress on those first 6 SDGs. Does that work, Ann?
Yes, and I put it in the chat, so when you're in your breakout groups, you can see that. And also the link that's in the chat, if you haven't memorized them, shame on you, but you can use the link in the chat to look at them.
Also, John, are we doing any report out? Are people just discussing? Is somebody taking notes? How do you want?
No need for taking notes. This is our personal mutual empowerment.
Okay.
And I may call on one person to just share how the discussion was, but we're not submitting your names for a report at this point. So feel free to just look at what questions do you have, what role could you play. This is about mutual capacity strengthening, really. Does that make sense, Gunjan?
Absolutely. So then that's also a great platform for all of us to discover what we are already doing and what we could do to strengthen each other's work in this, especially
Great.
when it comes to government advocacy. So yeah, thanks, John.
Okay, so I'm going to pop up a screen on your screen that'll show that you can join group 1, 2, or 3. And so please join your discussion groups, and I'll leave them open for 20 minutes. Okay, so one is English. I'm putting the names of it. Haven't popped up yet. So the first time I've ever named group. And please, ooh, it's getting noisy over there. English M2C.
John, are you sharing the link to the group?
In just a moment, any moment now. Oh dear, okay, so I'm going to open other rooms. And now you can all pick a group to join. And Massimo, if you should also be able to join one if you want. It would be great to have you.
Thanks, will do.
Okay, I'm watching. We're getting a few into them. Steve. Most of you have not joined yet, so please pick a group.
Is everybody seeing the option to pick a group? Annette said she hasn't.
Oh,
Not showing up for me either.
Not yet.
Oh, that's, well, some computers have troubles and more than others. So let me just, I'll assign people and then
I've
you can,
started assigning people based on what they're saying already.
oh, great.
And also, but yes,
So
I
did
see.
you start from the start of the alphabet? Then I could start from the bottom.
Yep, sounds good.
I'm in now.
Great.
Okay, almost everybody
Has
is.
anyone been able to access the pop-up?
Yes, who is that speaking?
This is Moses. I haven't
Oh, yes,
got a pop-up to join. Ah, there we go. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. So Anne and Gunjan, do you want to join one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Does everybody who's still in here?
It's just you two, or the
No, there are
everyone.
people, I think they're just waiting for, maybe people haven't seen some pop-ups.
Oh, yeah.
Ernest, did you not get a pop-up? Joseph, Ernest.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Raise your hand if you'd like to share how the discussion went in your room, and I'll call on you. Anyone? Yes, Becky.
I was just like, it was going really well. We were having a great conversation, but it seems like the time was little. We didn't have like enough time for everyone to go over. But it seemed like we're coming back to the model of the movement MCLD, and how like we have to center communities like in the development, like at every single action that we are undertaking, and also making sure that there is some form of like collaboration with local governments, and also making sure like there is some form of like monitoring and evaluation, so that we can work on like the data that is collected to know exactly like how to respond to the needs of the communities in accordance to each of the 6 points that we were talking about. Yeah.
Great, Becky. Very clear. Someone else?
I would love to ask
Mm.
Sylvia if she didn't mind to repeat a point that she made. Are you still here, Sylvia?
Yes, she is.
Yes, yes, I am still here. Hello, everyone. So, what I was really quickly, what I was talking about is that something that we can start like thinking about instead of seeing what is missing or what we are not doing, when still governments or still people are not knowing what the SDGs are at this time. Instead it's like turn the question around to say, okay, what we are already doing is making process for the SDGs. It's not that we need to create another big bold idea. What we are right now doing, it's already being helping the SDGs. So instead, what else do we need to continue doing? What is missing? What is all those small things that still aren't connected, that we can connect, and at the same time continue knowing that when we talk about SDGs, even though we know it, be emphasizing more and stronger that they are all connected. So we're not talking about just gender, we're not talking just about education, we're not just talking about climate change. We are doing all of those, we are doing all actions, and they are making an impact. And also at the same time, if there's something missing, what we need to do from now on, besides 2030 or 2040 or 2050, but knowing that we are already doing things. So it's not like, let's present SDGs. What we do are SDGs.
Good point, Sylvia. Okay, and consistent with the request that people get more time, I'm going to share my screen again for a moment. And let's see. There it is.
And John,
Oh.
there is a hand from Anne Marie.
Oh, great, Anne Marie. Glad you made it. I saw you connecting and connecting and connecting. Please go ahead and speak.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Because of my location, I'm living in the village in Sierra Leone,
Yes.
the remote northern community. And so most of the time I want to join to make contributions, but it's really difficult for me. But I'm always with you, and I'm trying to even upgrade my website so that you can be seeing the great work that me and my organizations we are doing in this country, especially in this part of the country, because this place is like neglected place. And I have some of my staff here, like project coordinator Augustine. Can you say hi to them?
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
So
Very good, Anne-Marie.
I've been trying to, yes, to join. I've not been hearing all the discussions. I want you to brief me so that I can contribute.
Wonderful. Well, Lansana and I are actually on the call, and they coordinate all the movement activities in Sierra Leone. So I hope that they can connect with you and regularly make sure that you're well included and that that people are knowing what you're doing, which is so important. There's just people just don't know the amazing work that the groups on this call and 1,000 other groups that are on this call are achieving with so little resources, and how a little more resources would make such a big difference, as well as more partnership. Okay, I'm going to share a screen. And from here, I'm going to just mention that we're going to do another 20 minutes or so breakout group. And here we're going to look at the challenge of climate change. Goal 12 is responsible consumption and production. So that's, you know, a lot of how factories work and mining works and even agriculture are happening in ways that are harming the environment. Climate action, we had a whole session on this new framework for locally led adaptation so that there are more resources will go to communities or should be going to communities to help them change their crops and change the work they're doing to be more prosperous despite the challenge of climate change. So many of the people in our communities, their livelihoods depend on fishing, or the coastal communities are often the most impoverished. That's goal 14. The rest of us are focusing on life on land, and that's where our livelihoods are coming from. 16 is the goal for good governance, and 17 is the goal for working in partnership, which is the whole context of what we've been discussing today. So all of these things we will need to get good at speaking about. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And once again, we'll go back in the breakout groups and just really look individually how you can bring your leadership and your connections to these challenges. For those of you who joined since the last breakout groups, we have 3 breakout groups. One is for the first half of the alphabet in English, the second is for the second half of the alphabet in English, and the third is French. So with that, I'm going to pop us back in for at least 20 more minutes. If I can find the controls to do that, breakout rooms, open all rooms. Okay, you're going to go back into your same room.
John,
Yes?
on the calendar, we only have about 10 minutes left, but I assume we're expanding the end time of the meeting, right?
My clock says it's just 5 after 11.
Yeah, my invitation went from, oh, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. My bad.
Okay. No problem. Romeg, Gandajo, what language do you prefer, French or English? Okay, I will take that to mean English. And the rest of you, you may have to hit the more button to see the breakout rooms if you're not seeing the breakout rooms. If not, I can change your breakout room and I'll force it to pop up.
John, Jack Higgins here again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm afraid I have to break off for another meeting. I actually started 8 minutes ago that I'm supposed
Oh,
to be
okay.
chairing, but I've been frantically trying to copy the text and not doing very well with that. It doesn't seem to want to be copied very much. Could you possibly send me the text chat?
Sure.
I put my email
After,
address
after
in
the end
there
of the
somewhere.
call, I'll be able to download it and I can send it to you.
That'd be wonderful. I'll put my email again at the end here. It's earlier
Okay.
in the string, but I'll put it here.
Great, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with you, John.
Okay, Jack. Thank you. Okay, let's. And so Evans, see if I can get you into a room here. And Charles. Jamo.
So people will teach and sensitize us more on.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like everyone is back. And I've started the recording again. And I really, really appreciate all that you brought today. Bishop Seth, I'm so happy to see you on our call. Burundi is in the house. Burundi is represented today with two wonderful people. I think this is the first time that's happened, and we're going to have more and more countries with us as we move forward. I just have a few announcements before we complete the call. In addition to my thanks, particularly to Massimo. I don't know if he's still with us or if he had to leave. But
he had to go just a minute ago.
Yeah, I figured. Anne or Gunjan, do either of you have announcements to make?
I have one quick one, actually. We've started talking about our storytelling initiative and figuring out how to use storytelling for systems change and in community-led development ways. So if you're interested in that, I will put my email in the chat.
Great, Anne. Wonderful.
Okay. Couple of things. So first, the unlearning labs. I know we started the unlearning labs on community-led monitoring, evaluation, and learning. We had a lot of great participation. The third part of the unlearning labs is really about how do we develop our theory of change, or what the change we want to see with communities. That's happening in September. I'll be sending out the dates soon. Again, the unlearning labs is where we look at mutual capacity strengthening. So all of us bring experience, knowledge, and expertise. Some of us about how to be community-led, some of us about monitoring and evaluation, some of us about, different aspects of this work. So if you would like to be part of the facilitation team, because these are always facilitated by our members who we believe are experts, and we kind of curate the expertise in the room to create frameworks that we can apply together, then please get in touch with us. I'm going to put the email ID in chat. Also, we now have two wonderful people who have volunteered to lead the working group. We have a specific working group on community-led monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And this is to help, because this was an area when we did a survey, this was the highest priority identified by all our members in the survey on the topic that they really want to deeper dive into. So we'll be sending out information on the working group in case you would like to join that working group, which is really at very practical things on how do we implement this, right? That's going to be happening. The third thing is that, as we heard in our breakout room, there are initiatives which a lot of our members are taking, I think, where there is a lot of potential for collaboration and cross-learning. CEPI in Nigeria is looking at a humanitarian academy, for instance. So if you have these initiatives where movement-wide we can learn from, benefit from, and support each other, then please, again, reach out to us, let us know so that we can channelize this great energy and solidarity and community that we have here to support each other. And finally, on two important things that's happening on the policy advocacy front. First, many of you have been involved in the influence work that we have been doing with the world's largest bilateral donor, USAID. Thanks to all your contributions, for the first time, we have a policy from USAID that has more input from community-based and local organizations and INGOs. This is a first. As we continue the dialogue, we will keep all of you informed around it. And we are also trying at the same time to take it beyond USAID to other bilateral funders, to influence them, because it is important if we want to shift the power, and we need to shift the power to attain the SDGs, to get them engaged. So just to let you know that that work is continuing, we will be sharing out reports periodically on the impact of the work and what's happening. And then the final thing, UNGA, the UN General Assembly. John, I don't know if you're going to be talking about it specifically, but some of you mentioned you're going to be there, I know, in the breakout rooms. If you are going to be there, please reach out to us. Let us know. We're going to be there, and we're going to be trying to connect the dots when you're there. And if your national delegations are there and would like to connect with us and the movement, then please, again, let us know. John, back to you.
Yes, that was all I was going to say, is that both Gunjan and I will be up in New York, and we would like to tell your government about the wonderful work you're doing. If you know people in the mission, or you know people who are coming. Kenya, I know, sends a lot of mayors, and governors, district governors to the county governors, rather, to the UN. And as you heard from Massimo, they're organizing big events on the weekend. I saw in the chat a great festival for the SDGs. It's going on in Uganda. So here we are, the second half of the SDGs, and let's win this race in the second half. That's all. We're at time. And if you want to unmute and say goodbye to everyone, now's your chance. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Yes, goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Adios.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 How are you, Oga Pascal?
Yes, Sister Becca, how are you doing?
Pascal, how are you, sir?
Bye.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. Bye-bye.
Merci.